Today, we're going to be comparing the cameras on the Galaxy S23 Ultra versus the Xiaomi 13 Pro. First thing to notice is that when you're shooting video with the front-facing camera, the max resolution you can shoot up to is 1080p on Xiaomi versus 4K 60 on the Galaxy. It's a pretty foggy day today, so these pictures and the videos might look pretty dull, but anyways, tonight I'll be having dinner with a bunch of tech traders that you may know.
Shooting video on the ultra wide, the Galaxy does have a really good stabilization, so it looks like you're using a gimbal. For the images on this very cloudy moment, you can tell that the Galaxy is much darker versus the Xiaomi, where you can see more in the shadows. And I find that consistent throughout the whole Xiaomi camera experience. So when you have like a strong HDR shot, you can see that the Galaxy is really exposing for the highlights. You can see the clouds, the sun, the gradients of the yellow, whereas on the Xiaomi, the sky is pretty much overblown. Now there is like a pro to this if you're planning to vlog or shoot your friend, because then your friend will be exposed and you can see their face, whereas on the Galaxy, it might be pretty dark. And since the sky cleared up, a lot of blues came out, and for the Galaxy, it's really strong or really like present in these shots. Like the road is more on the bluish side, the sky is definitely much more blue and vibrant, so that's something to consider if you do want like a bluish saturated look. Now for handling the transition of HDR, you can tell that the Galaxy is just straight on point, it's like really quick. On the Xiaomi, it does take a while and you can see it slowly dial down the highlights to match a good exposure. For low light, I'll say that the Xiaomi is just slightly more crushed, but yet just a bit cleaner. And there are little spots where it's a bit brighter on the Xiaomi, and of course you can see less noise and artifacts coming out, especially on the upper left. And since the Ultra has really great stabilization, you can see on the Xiaomi like every step I take, the micro jitters like starts to happen. And also for the colors, the Galaxy seems to be more closer to the eye with the tungsten look, whereas the Xiaomi is really focused on the white balancing. Now for the wide camera, it's the same thing with the exposure transition. It is a bit slower on the Xiaomi, and I guess if you like it smoother, a smoother transition, that might be better for you, but the Galaxy is just much quicker and straight to the point. For the pictures, you can see that there's a lot closer to each other. There are little details where you can see a bit more blue or it's a bit brighter, but you're not going to see a huge difference just like you would see it on an ultra wide angle lens. Now shooting low light video, you can still see that the Galaxy is much more cleaner and smoother just because of the better stabilization. On the Xiaomi, yeah, it's not as good, but still a lot better than its ultra wide. The same thing with the colors, the Xiaomi is more focused on white balancing, so whatever is white should be white, whereas in this whole room, the tungsten lights are more yellow, so naturally we do see a yellow cast on the white tablecloths and whatever is around the whole environment. But I do like how I can see the faces and it's not as dark as the Galaxy. The Xiaomi does have a 1-inch sensor, which does help getting the natural background blur. For photographers, they know how to get this, and it might be something that they like or prefer more than the smaller sensors. But the downside is you can see more of the foreground blur present, so for a regular consumer, they probably don't like that and they want to see everything in focus or whatever is shooting to be in focus. Next up is Telephoto. The 3x or 3.2x on a Xiaomi is really good. Anything from 3x to 10x, I feel like it's good enough for the normal consumer and what they would just need it to just casually shoot. Now, if you're comparing just the 100x and 7x, of course, 100x is much better for the range, but it's also much cleaner. I feel like the processing, the sharpening just really helps it a lot. Personally, I do think after like 20x or 30x, that's when you start to use it more as a tool to see something from afar. And there's something small that I noticed at 10x, even though they both look great. On a Galaxy, you can see more of that sharpening effect. So there's like little fine lines, you can see it's kind of edgy. Whereas on a Xiaomi, you don't really see that as much. It looks much softer and it looks like is really natural. And low light at 10x, you can see how that 1-inch is useful in grabbing more light to get a cleaner image and see less noise. For selfies, they do look great. I do like the warmer tones on the Xiaomi, and one thing I do notice is it does handle HDR a lot better. For example, the lights behind me or even the sun, you can actually see the sky and the clouds, whereas on Galaxy, it's really overblown. For portrait mode, you do get 1x and 3x. And I'll have to mention the 3x on a timer is not always going to be in focus. Sometimes it will be, but for the most part, it doesn't. And it's very common even in like the last year's models. But it's weird that it's the only phone, the only Samsung phones do this. All the other phones like Xiaomi, Google, iPhone, even budget phones, they still are in focus even if I put it on a timer and run to my spot. On Xiaomi, you do have vibrant mode, which does make it pop a little bit, and also pro lenses, which does give you the option of using different filters, and also focal lengths as well, which I do like using the 35mm, the 50mm, but not so much of the black and white filter. I wish I can turn the filters off. Now for Instagram, when you save the video, the first few seconds is really pixelated, both on the Galaxy and Xiaomi, so it's very common on Android phones. Now, if you do plan on zooming a lot in your Instagram stories, then the Galaxy will come out cleaner. This is something that's less noticeable shooting in the Instagram camera app, is that the Xiaomi has a bit of a wider focal length, so it's great for tighter spots, whereas the Galaxy is more zoomed in. Even you can see that even with pictures too. So for video, I recommend shooting with the stock camera app to get better quality image. And also you can save it and avoid that weird pixelation at the beginning. Now for HDR, definitely the Xiaomi is much darker. You can't really see as much as the Galaxy, so I think overall for pictures and video, I'm gonna lean towards using the Galaxy S23, especially if you're shooting a lot of food pictures. It does pop, like the greens and red does separate really well. Of course, it doesn't work as good on the Xiaomi. So that is the comparison between the Galaxy S23 Ultra versus the Xiaomi 13 Pro. I do have another comparison with the Xiaomi versus the iPhone 14 Pro, so go ahead and check that one out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.